Hello, and thanks for tuning in with me, Sindhuja, and my colleague Jibu on This Week on India AI. Follow us on SoundCloud for our podcasts and our social media channels on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook for the latest news and developments on artificial intelligence in India. This week, we have a very interesting lineup of stories for you, and we will be also looking very closely at how the education sector is thriving due to AI. Over to my colleague Jibu right now.
Hi, Sindhuja.
Hi, Jibu. How are you? How are things?
Yeah, things are good, and we have some incredible news coming from last week. So, India, alongside some of the major economies in the world, has launched this partnership, global partnership on artificial intelligence called GPay. I mean, it reads its abbreviation is GPAI, but it's been called GPay, full
See.
name.
Okay.
So yeah, so this happened last week in UK, and India is one of the proud founding members of the coalition. The idea behind GPay is to create a multi-stakeholder initiative that can guide the responsible development and use of AI. So we want to
Hmm.
develop an AI which is grounded in human rights, inclusion, diversity, innovation, and economic growth. Something which is totally in alignment with the India's vision for AI. But do
Absolutely.
you know what is more noticeable with this coalition is?
What is? Do tell me.
It's somebody who is absent from it. Can you guess?
Uh, Actually, no. Who's missing from here? Don't tell me it's
China.
going to be an obvious one. Oh,
It's
of
of course
course.
China.
I'm sorry, but I'm really not very surprised at that.
So the whole idea of responsible development, grounded in human rights, that doesn't go well with China, as we
Hmm.
know, right? So China has a different quality when standards when it comes to human rights, and I mean, unfortunately, we are also experiencing some very how to say very aggressive behavior on our borders from China.
Yeah, that's right.
And when you consider China as a country, you have to understand the key motivation behind them pushing this AI is
Hmm.
their idea of asymmetric warfare. So China knows that head to head, it won't win a war with US. So its idea is to find areas where it can have an external edge, like installing spyware in Huawei's systems, or pretty much having a surveillance system built into the African Union headquarters. Or
Hmm.
now they say see AI as a tool for this asymmetric warfare, wherever they can gain advantage. So I think this global initiative is
Hmm.
one way to make sure that AI and AI tools won't get into the wrong hands. And especially with the developments that are happening in countries like US, UK, and Canada. So
Definitely.
it is very interesting. So let me mention which are the few key areas, right? So GPay
Sure.
will bring together leading experts from industry, civil society, governments, and academia to collaborate across four main themes. That is responsible AI, data governance, future of work, innovation, and commercialization. So in a way, GPay is like a global India AI when I look into it,
In a
right?
sense, yeah,
In
absolutely.
a
And
sense,
I
yeah.
think it's
So
also touching on all of the different aspects that artificial intelligence is being trained and being developed in our own country. So we do have a lot to contribute, I think, on all of these fronts.
definitely, definitely. So that's why we are saying, right? So one of the things that makes me passionate about AI, and some of the people like yourself and all the people who gets involved with India AI project, from Ravi Shankar Prasad, is the transformative power of AI, right? How AI
Absolutely.
can be used to bring social changes or transformation, economic
Hmm.
inclusion, social empowerment, things like that.
Yeah.
And one major area where this change is started to happen is in education. So when I mean education, it's not teaching AI in the schools, right? That's
Hmm.
being taken care of by CBSE. Kendriya Vidyalaya has came up with a new initiative. You
Hmm.
got Atal Innovation Mission doing an excellent job with Atal Tinkering Labs and their AI-based module. So many programs are there. NASCOM Future Skills is doing brilliant work. Skill India Mission, they are all doing incredible job. But what I'm saying is AI being used as a tool to bridge the quality of teaching or help the students learn more. So one
Absolutely.
of
Yeah,
so one
I
of
agree.
the one of the crucial startups, I think we have mentioned it before also in our platform, is Jungru AI.
Hmm.
By
Jungru learning. Yeah. Yeah.
Jungru Learn, yes,
Yeah.
by Seturaman. So
That's right.
it was created while he was a Teach for India volunteer in a
Hmm.
government school in Saidapet, and he
Hmm.
realized that the traditional or the existing methods weren't working well with the students. And Jungru AI's learning system has been used by NGO like Bhumi, when it comes to the working with the kids from very poor boys home, as well as slum areas, they had done an incredible work. And as someone who spent an year teaching in slums of Sogarpet and a
Mm.
boss area in Chennai, I mean, I'm
Mm.
incredible that these tools can bring a much more powerful impact than what traditionally teachers does, right? So I
Agreed.
want to mention few of the such incredible initiatives. Similarly, the government, as we speak, government has been a major driver in AI space in India.
Mm.
I know it's a surprising thing when I say it to many people, but when I put together the facts and look at these initiatives, look at these programs from the government, they are like, wow, I never thought this, right? So
Mm.
Andhra Pradesh has worked with Microsoft, where they are addressing the school dropout by bringing in AI. So the biggest challenge Andhra faced was people dropping out from middle grades, right? 5, 6, 7, 8,
Mm.
for high school, and they have now an AI program, and this initiative looks into patterns and identify where the problems are. It goes through the data set and suggests remedial measures, and
Definitely.
that's been an incredible initiative. Similarly, there is another learning initiative from this startup called Sutara Learning. I think Sutra may be the word. Maybe I'm mispronouncing it. So they have got into gamifying, and gamifying is a big deal now in
That's the
terms of
future.
learning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Especially with
and
EdTech,
yeah,
yes.
yes, in edtech, gamifying as well as personalized learning, adaptive learning are the key phrases now. And
Mm.
they have created a star chatbot, and I love the name. It's called Chimble. I love the name,
Mm.
and
That's
it
a nice
uses
name.
yeah, and it uses NLP to guide students through pretty much what you said, the journey learning method, right? It's like gamified learning method. So I think the future is, I mean, when you consider the fact that many of the in the rural India, many part there are
Mm.
teachers even in government or in private sector who are having even the difficulty in speaking proper English. Do you know that?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, that does strike off a certain sort of the thought pattern in my head, where I was just thinking about how there's so much of emphasis on trying to understand basic skills and ensuring that as many people as possible can be brought into the mainstream and be enabled and get more opportunities. And I think whether we like it or not, I think the knowledge of English is something that is absolutely critical. It is a proficiency that is needed, and it's something that cannot be really negotiated with, especially if you have to apply for jobs in the bigger cities in India and definitely outside. And did you know that according to the annual status of the education report of 2019, only 16% of children in class 1 in 26 surveyed rural districts can actually read the text at the prescribed level, and
That's
40%
shocking.
of them actually can't even recognize letters.
Oh my God,
So
that's
this is
shocking. We are
it's
talking
quite.
about. I mean, if you look at the scale, I mean, how many we got around what 25 crores or I think more than 25 crores school children, right? In
Yes,
that
that's correct.
age grade.
Yep, absolutely. And from there, and imagine the number of teachers. So obviously the focus will shift on the educators in the system. How proficient are they? And in fact, it turns out that the data gets a little more grim on this front. 18% of teachers in India, but in 2016 and 17, had actually no professional qualification in teaching. Many of them even lack basic proficiency in communicative English. So at least when it comes to this particular lacuna, I think this is where I think AI is playing a critical role. So there is an edtech company based in Bangalore called Learning Matters, which is trying to fix this very significant gap in school education using AI and NLP. And with the help of Tara, which is an NLP powered virtual voice teacher, it works on Amazon's Echo Dot, Google Home, as well as smartphones. And using the power of the cloud, Tara uses Amazon's hardware, speech to text, text to speech, integrated with Learning Matters proprietary content. And this is which is especially developed for voice based platforms. Tara can essentially mimic a human teacher. And this is done by listening, responding to the learner's responses with an emphasis on corrections, inflection, and feedback. And so essentially, Tara is the walking, talking embodiment of a teacher. And this
That's
is
incredible.
trying to address this particular gap when it comes to the rural level education, at least when it comes to communicative English. And knowing and understanding that language is such a powerful tool. It's such an enabler, and it's such a empowering tool to have in this day and age. To really scale professional success and at least become a part of the mainstream to an extent. So I think strides like this being made in the education technology space using AI is so critical. Especially to really bridge the gaps that we are seeing today in society.
So I want to clarify something, as much as, and I know Sindhuja personally, and I'm sure she's also someone with the same point of view, that as much as we want English to be taught in the schools, and students needed to be proficient, we both believe that our mother tongues are of utmost importance, right? I mean,
Yeah.
mine is Malayalam and Sindhuja's is Kannada. And I mean, if you look at the whole India AI team, we have like three, four mother tongues among people who work in the team, as well as the people who write for the team. And as a country, we are blessed with this diversity. I mean, every language has its own beauty, right? I mean, if you listen to a song in Tamil, I mean, Tamil has a
Absolutely.
single syllable, two syllable words, so many songs, words. So
Yeah.
it makes the songs beautiful. And if you can yell at someone in Telugu, it's like so awesome, right? And Hindi is a whole another entity. And you got Bengali, you got I mean, you got so many languages. Right? You got Bengali,
Yeah.
you got Assami, you got the Marathi. So, but in the end, the global economy is driven by English.
Yeah.
And so far, even though English is not as popularly as spoken as Spanish or Bengali or Hindi, but yeah, that's a fact. And I don't know, we will enter a day where we will start speaking Mandarin, but I don't know. I mean, I hope that won't happen. So yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. So the global economy is pretty much an English oriented economy, and it is important to participate in the economic activities in that space. You need to have a good understanding. And I was shocked by the numbers you mentioned, right? 18% of the teachers are not qualified. I mean, that is shocking. And
Yeah.
I think that's where the edtech startups of this country, whether Learning Matters, Jungru, or Aspiring Minds, or all these guys can come into this space and play a big role. I mean, I
Definitely.
think the startup ecosystem in India has, in many areas, has taken the mantle of transformation on its own. And
Yeah.
one recognition for that is the new World Economic Forum's Pioneer of the Year, right?
Oh,
So
yeah? Do tell me
yeah,
more
so
about that.
okay, so the World Economic Forum has this technology pioneers of the year, right? They release a
Mhm.
list, and every year they do that, and these startups will get to participate in World Economic Forum activities for the next 2 years. And it might sound like another list, but let me tell you who were the startups that were in the list before. You got the
Mm.
Google, Airbnb. I mean, any startup you can just think, who had made a significant transformation on the globe was on this list many years ago, some point of time.
Mm.
So the good news here is there are two Indian startups on this list for this year. One is an agri-tech startup called Stellabs, and another is a
Okay.
fintech app called Zest Money. So
Right.
it's
Okay.
incredible, and we are working close with both of these startups, and we will be bringing you a very deep coverage on how they are using. For example, Stellabs uses IoT for agri-tech, while
Mm.
Zest Money is more of a credit rating application based on the data points that's collected from the user. So
Mm.
that's the big news, and it could be incredible. I mean, startups are despite being so despite sorry and India's startup ecosystem is booming, especially AI startup ecosystem is booming. I mean, we have the most number of startups in terms of G20 countries. I think there is a statistics like that. So our
Mm.
startup ecosystem, especially in terms of AI, IoT, and analytics, has been on the rise, and it's fascinating how they bring changes to the ecosystem.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
all to the country.
I couldn't agree more. And I think what is really interesting to see right now is we're not just increasing in number, we're also increasing in quality. And I think that's also equally important, to understand how well the ecosystem is thriving and maturing over the years. And then one particular example would be our startup of the week, which I'd like to talk about. They're called Tidy. This is an HR automation startup that makes onboarding essentially a very seamless experience for large enterprises like Unilever, Sanofi, AB InBev, L&T. They work with enterprises of this magnitude and this size. So, and when I spoke to the co-founder Kiran Menon earlier this week, he said that after COVID-19, they're seeing a heightened interest even from startups, especially from Asia, to utilize their services. And what I found to be very interesting about this particular startup is that they're one of the few. companies out there that is aggressively working on codeless automation. So, codeless automation is something where, generally for large scale projects and their consequent execution, to ensure a quick release cycle, developing an adequate test environment and writing test scripts is a pretty time and resource intensive process. So, in order to alleviate these costs, codeless automation is gaining popularity with the startups, and it definitely saves you a lot of time, and it basically allows a very seamless integration into the existing system, so that even if you are a non-techie person, going by that particular adage, you can easily integrate into the system's layouts, and you can work with the platform without actually having to go through a complicated process of learning. And it's very intuitive. And this is where the power of AI really comes in, because it is utilizing user behavior and content around it to develop intuitive, machines and learning platforms that makes it very easy for someone to just plug in and start working. So, Tidy is essentially deploying codeless automation across all of their, across all of the clients that they work with. And digitization of data makes it very easy to deliver onboarded automated campaigns, notification to key contacts, data syncing with other systems. So, essentially hiring a person just becomes a very, very easy process. And in some cases, they're reporting, some companies have reported that, earlier a process that would take them 2.5 hours is now taking them 15 minutes thanks to Tidy. So I think it's great. It's amazing to see the level of maturity and the agility to which our startups are working today and developing products first, which are so easy to plug and play and use.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. But there are lots of challenges Indian startups face when you compare to startups in places like Silicon Valley or somewhere
Right.
in China, right? Whether in terms of funding or whether in terms of finding the right talent. I mean that's one of the reasons we have hubs like Bangalore and Hyderabad, which is also growing as an AI startup hub. But despite, that's the key word here, despite all these challenges, it's incredible that how startups has impacted many, especially I'm talking about AI startups here, impacted many sectors, even especially during the COVID times, whether it's healthcare, telemedicine, fintech, or surveillance or analytics, or now even retail, right? I want to
Mm.
bring a point up here, because we recently published, NASCOM recently published a report on AI in retail, and I think Sindhuja will update you on that. It's an
Yeah,
incredible piece of
absolutely.
information.
It's one of the more comprehensive and much more easily understandable reports that I have read in recent times. It took me less than an hour to actually read it from page to page. Even though it's just 69 pages, it took me a lot less of time. And I think that was kudos to the team for putting it together in such an easy manner to read. So NASCOM Research, NASCOM Data Science and Artificial Intelligence, as well as Ernst& Young had released a report earlier this week titled Indian Retail, AI Imperative to Data-Led Growth. So this is essentially focused on the AI opportunities in India retail sector, and it gives a lot of very interesting angles, information, and nuggets about the retail space in India today. Of course, I mean, it is one of the fastest growing sectors. It's also one that is bringing tremendous data-led opportunities to the forefront. The unorganized retail sector space is apparently expected to grow a tremendous amount, whereas the organized one with e-commerce could grow by even more than that, by at least by 3x by 2024. So we're looking at a very high potential, high impact market at this point, but there are a lot of issues that exist and a lot of obstacles that exist that have to be fixed. This include like broken supply chains, a reduced discretionary spend, and so many other issues. So now the added complexity in this particular matter would be COVID-19, which is essentially necessitating digitization and making it happen a lot faster. So this report really throws light on what are the different areas that retail companies and retail startups, enterprises, and MSMEs and SMEs can essentially adopt to make themselves smarter, more digitized, and really at the front. And it especially throws a lot of light on important use cases and their business impact. Also, it talks about product technology companies and startups and technology service providers, their strengths, how they can be leveraged to build a collaborative ecosystem to really just take this forward. So finally, it comes down to collaboration, Jibu, is what I understood. I think it's all about bringing together different ecosystem players and building an AI charter that is going to focus on all of these key ecosystem players. You need the startups for their connect to the masses and being able to build products which are very in tune with what the market demands are. And you also need technology majors and technology service providers for the level of infrastructure that they bring on the scalability aspect when it comes to cloud and other IoT capabilities, for instance. So an AI charter for a company in the retail space going forward really has to be looking at it from a collaborative approach, and that is what the report really talks about. To learn more about about the report, do log into our website and do check out the story. The link is provided there, and you can read the entire report from end to end and definitely learn a lot of insights about that.
And I want to also mention that there are so many incredible AI reports coming from NASCOM, right? We had
Yeah.
AI primer coming out. We had something on chatbots, voice AI. I mean, they are very easy to understand. Like you said, they are more visually, so you don't have to sit and read page to page like some of the
Yeah.
reports. I'm not mentioning any organization here, but generally, some of the reports we had to deal with. I mean, you can find
Yeah.
a lot of AI related latest reports on our website, indiaai.in or ai.gov.in. There's a whole section dedicated to reports. But the speciality of NASCOM reports seems to be that they are very easy to comprehend, right? You don't have to go sit and read, and especially it's a difficult task reading long PDFs, unlike reading paper. So
Absolutely.
that's the reason why whenever I need some sort of reference, right? I want to also mention that there are so many incredible AI reports coming from NASCOM, right? We had
Yeah.
AI primer coming out. We had something on chatbots, voice AI. I mean, they are very easy to understand. Like you said, they are more visually, so you don't have to sit and read page to page like some of the
Yeah.
reports. I'm not mentioning any organization here, but generally, some of the reports we had to deal with. I mean, you can find
Yeah.
a lot of AI related latest reports on our website, indiaai.in or ai.gov.in. There's a whole section dedicated to reports. But the speciality of NASCOM reports seems to be that they are very easy to comprehend, right? You don't have to go sit and read, and especially it's a difficult task reading long PDFs, unlike reading paper. So
Absolutely.
that's the reason why whenever I need some sort of reference, right? Because if I want to look into something like AI for social good, we are having a conversation with one of a friend of mine, and my initial reaction is, okay, I will send you the NASCOM report because it's easy, right? You have put it in a way that it's so easy to understand. I think that was also from COE DSAI. I think they
That's
had
correct.
this
Yeah.
report also.
Yeah.
So it is incredible what is happening, and retail is another space, and yeah, and I want to bring up the fact that. Yeah, we are now back to webinar, and we took a week off because of a race event happening. So now we are coming back to our webinars, and next week we have an incredible speaker, and he's a personal friend of mine, and I believe he's the most underrated Indian because this guy, he makes computer chips that behaves like a human brain. So this is
Really.
Manan Suri, yep, and he was selected as MIT Tech Reviews 35 under 35, and incredible. He's a very young rock star professor in IIT Delhi, an amazing guy to speak with. And I mean, our conversations always, whenever we have a phone call, it will at least take 1 hour because he's so passionate about AI. How I think one area we often overlook is the hardware side, right? Without hardware, AI won't be there. When we can speak, many times about data localization and things like that. But the question is, we need Google's TPU, tensor processing unit, or
True.
Amazon's Inferentia chip, or all these, or Nvidia's graphic cards, which pretty much kickstarted the some of the major leaps in deep learning. So we need all this hardware in order to process these data and arrive the inferences. So I think Manan story, it will be interesting because as we reach a sort of we are hitting a wall with reinforcement learning down the line, and people like many people are suggesting, like Gargi Vidaskut are suggesting that we needed a hybrid approach. So neuromorphic computing will be a crucial step going forward, and I think and Sindhuja will be speaking about the webinar we had the week ago.
Yeah, in fact, it was quite interesting to sit and listen to Ms. Gargi Dasgupta. She's a director for IBM Research in India and also holds another designation of the as a CTO of IBM India and South Asia. So in the webinar that we held last week, she spoke extensively about the utility of enterprise AI, hybrid cloud, and the explainability of AI, which really does go a very long way in cementing the utility and authenticity as a pivotal tool for business transformation. So definitely looking forward to having Dr. Manan Suri next week. I know he's one of the doyens when it comes to artificial intelligence in India. And I think it's also a testament to the fact that India AI as a portal is taking on some very hard, difficult, as well as complicated yet very very crucial and necessary topics in the field of AI by calling experts like Gargi and Dr. Manan Suri. So really looking forward to next week's episode, and it's going to be more. We're going to be giving you updates on the next webinar, which is going to be on neuromorphic computing. So do stay tuned and do tune in next week with us on this very interesting podcast. That's it from us this week. We're very excited to be able to put this episode for you today. We're very thrilled that we're getting a great response on our podcast on our social media channels.
Exactly. And I
Yeah,
had to
so
thank you, Sindhuja, for hosting it because you make me feel like I'm talking to Joe Rogan.
the feeling is mutual. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Jibo. It's really a pleasure to be able to do this and talk about AI once a week. And this is like a weekly call between me and Jibo that happens, and we're trying our absolute best to put together the most interesting updates for you. So do stay tuned. Do come back next week. We'll be back with more updates and some very interesting stories that's lined up for you. Until then, stay safe, take care, and we'll be back soon.